Story 1. I remember when I was little, my mom used to tell me the weirdest things. You know, those random superstitions that don't seem to make any sense. One of the things she always said was that if a drop of water suddenly falls on you, like on your arm or something, while you're inside, it means someone close to you is going to die. She was always serious about it, and I'd laugh, saying, "Mom, you're being silly." I never believed it, not for a second. I mean, why would I? It's just water, right? What does that have to do with death? I guess I never really thought about it much. It was just one of those things you hear when you're a kid and brush off. Life goes on and you don't give it a second thought. But man, let me tell you, things change. Years went by and that little thing she used to say kept coming back to me, especially after it happened. I was probably in my early 20s at the time. Life was just, happening. You go to work, you hang out with friends, nothing too crazy. One day I was at home just chilling. It was one of those lazy weekends when you don't really have anything to do but hang around the house. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, flipping through a magazine, not paying attention to much. Then out of nowhere, I felt it, a drop of water. It was the weirdest thing. It wasn't raining. There were no leaks in the ceiling, and there I was, sitting inside with a drop of water right on my arm. I paused for a second, just staring at it. I rubbed my arm, and in my head I could hear my mom's voice saying that strange thing she always used to say. If a drop of water hits you indoors, someone close to you will die. It hit me for a second like, what the hell? But I shook it off. It was just a coincidence, I told myself. It had to be. That's the thing, though. You never expect things like that to be real. You think it's all just nonsense until it's not. It was later that same day when I got the phone call. You know how sometimes when you get a call, you just know something's wrong? That's what it was like. I answered, and it was my aunt crying on the other end. My heart sank instantly. My mom had been in a car accident. I felt like my entire world stopped in that moment. I couldn't even process it at first. She was gone, just like that. She was just going about her day. And now she wasn't here anymore. I remember feeling this wave of numbness wash over me. It was like nothing was real, like I was stuck in some horrible dream waiting to wake up. But the thing is, I never woke up. This was my reality now. The funeral was a blur. Everyone was there, offering their condolences, but I barely remember any of it. I just remember sitting there feeling like I was in a daze. It didn't feel real, none of it did. I missed her so much. I cried every night for what felt like weeks. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Everything just hurt. I'd lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. That drop of water, my mom's voice, the phone call, all of it. I kept wondering if it was somehow connected. I mean, how could it not be? My mom was my best friend, We talked all the time, and now there was just nothing. This emptiness inside of me that wouldn't go away. I tried to move on, to go back to work and keep living, but it was like I was stuck. Everything reminded me of her, the things she used to say, the way she used to laugh. I'd catch myself reaching for my phone to call her, only to remember she wasn't there anymore. Then, one night, after what felt like months of barely holding myself together, I had this dream. I don't usually remember my dreams, but this one, it was so vivid. It felt more real than anything I'd experienced since she died. In the dream, I was sitting in my room, just like always, feeling that same sadness that had been with me since she passed. But then I saw her. She just appeared, standing at the foot of my bed, looking at me with that gentle smile she always had. She didn't say anything at first, just looked at me, and I felt this warmth wash over me. It was like, for the first time since she died, I didn't feel completely alone. I started crying in the dream, telling her how much I missed her, how everything felt wrong without her here. I told her I didn't know how to keep going without her. She listened, like she always did, and then she came over and sat next to me. I could feel her, like she was really there, and she wrapped her arms around me, pulling me into a hug. It was so real. I could feel her warmth, smell the faint scent of her perfume. She finally spoke, her voice soft and calming, just like I remembered. "I'm always with you," she said. "You don't have to be afraid." I didn't know what to say. I just held on to her, not wanting to let go. She kept talking, comforting me in a way only she could. She told me that she wasn't really gone, that she'd always be there, watching over me even though I couldn't see her. She said it was okay to be sad, but that I couldn't let the sadness take over my life. "I want you to live," she told me. "I want you to be happy." It felt like we sat there for hours, just talking like we used to. I told her everything I had been holding inside since she passed, all the guilt, all the pain, and she listened, just like always. By the time I woke up, I felt different, lighter maybe, like a part of me that had been hurting so bad finally started to heal. I know it sounds crazy, but that dream changed everything for me. It didn't make the pain go away completely. Nothing ever could. But it gave me some kind of peace. I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, she really was still with me in some way, watching over me like she said she would. Sometimes when things get tough, I think back to that dream. I can still hear her voice, feel her hug. It's like a little reminder that I'm not as alone as I think I am. Maybe that's what she wanted, to remind me that she's still here, even if I can't see her. And you know what? I still think about that drop of water from time to time. I wonder if it was really a sign, like my mom always said, or if it was just a weird coincidence. I'll probably never know for sure. But it's funny how something so small, something you never believed in, can suddenly make you question everything. Life's weird like that, I guess. Story 2. When I was little, my mom used to tell me all these weird stories. You know how moms can be, superstitious and always talking about bad omens like it's some kind of science. One thing she'd always say is that if a drop of water ever falls on your arm when you're inside, it means someone close to you will die soon. I remember thinking, yeah, right, that's ridiculous. But she said it like it was a fact, and as a kid, I kind of believed her. But as I got older, I brushed it off like any other silly thing adults say. I grew up and forgot all about it. Life got busy, you know. I had my own family, a little boy of my own. His name was Neng, and man, he was my world. From the moment he came into my life, it felt like everything was different. There's something about becoming a mom that changes you, makes you more aware of everything. Neng was always the adventurous type, even when he was little. He couldn't sit still for a minute. He was one of those kids who'd run around the yard, climb the tallest tree, and ride his bike like he had no fear. I worried about him sometimes, but I loved his energy. He was full of life, you know? Always smiling, always pushing his limits. Anyway, fast forward a bit, and before I knew it, he was 18, ready to get his driver's license. I remember the day he passed his test. He was so excited. You could see the pride on his face. I was proud too. But as a mom, there's always that nagging worry in the back of your mind. I didn't let it show, though. I let him have his moment. The first few months were fine. He drove everywhere. School, his friends' houses, even just around the neighborhood when he had nowhere to go. He was responsible, I told myself. I taught him well. And besides, it's not like he'd be the type to do anything reckless. But then one day, out of nowhere, I was just sitting at home. I remember it so clearly. I was in the living room, folding laundry or something. It was just a normal day. And then out of the blue, I felt this cold drop of water land on my arm. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe it was just a leak or something. But then, out of nowhere, I heard my mom's voice in my head. If a drop of water falls on you indoors, someone close to you will die. For the first time in years, I actually stopped and thought about it. My heart started racing, but I shook it off. It's just an old superstition, right? It didn't mean anything. But still, I kept having this feeling that something was wrong. Hours went by, and Neng wasn't home yet. He was supposed to be back for dinner, but no text, no call, nothing. I tried calling him a few times, but it went straight to voicemail. I told myself he was just hanging out with his friends, that he'd be home soon. But he never came home. It wasn't until the police came knocking at my door that I found out what happened. He'd been texting his girlfriend while driving and swerved off the road. They said he didn't feel any pain. It was instant, but hearing those words, it didn't make it hurt any less. My baby was gone. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. All I did was cry. Every little thing reminded me of him. His clothes still in the laundry, his favorite snack in the cupboard. The house felt so empty without him. I kept thinking about that stupid drop of water, wondering if it really meant something, wondering if I could have done something, anything to stop it. I missed him so much, I can't even put it into words. It was like this giant hole just ripped through my life, and no matter what I did, nothing could fill it. Everything reminded me of him, you know. I'd be doing something simple, like making dinner, and I'd suddenly remember how he loved spaghetti, or how he used to sneak into the kitchen and steal bites of dessert before it was even ready. It just felt so wrong that he wasn't around anymore. People kept telling me that time would make it easier, but I didn't believe them. How could it? How could anything ever make the fact that my son was gone any easier? It's not like I could just get over it and move on. He was my everything, and without him I didn't even know who I was anymore. I cried all the time, for weeks, maybe months. Honestly, I lost track of time. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my face soaked in tears, and I wouldn't even know I'd been crying. It's like my body was grieving even when my mind wasn't fully awake. I didn't want to see anyone. Friends and family would call, would stop by to check on me, but I just couldn't face them. I didn't know how to be around people who hadn't lost what I lost. It felt like they could never understand. And then one night, maybe a few months after the accident, I don't remember exactly, I had this dream. But it didn't feel like a normal dream, you know? It felt real, too real. I was in my house, standing in the hallway right outside Neng's room. The door was closed, but I could hear this faint sound coming from inside, like someone moving around in there. My heart started pounding because it sounded like Neng. It sounded just like him, like the way he used to shuffle his feet when he was looking for something. I slowly opened the door, and there he was. Neng was sitting on the edge of his bed, just like he used to when he was waiting for me to come in and say goodnight. He looked so real, so solid, not like a ghost or anything, just like Neng, like my boy. I couldn't believe it. I stood there, frozen, and he looked up at me with that same smile he always had. "Hey, Mom," he said, like nothing had happened, like he wasn't gone. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to run to him, to hold him, but I was scared. I thought maybe if I moved too fast, he'd disappear. But he didn't. He just sat there, calm and patient, like he was waiting for me to come closer. So I did. I sat down next to him, and I could feel him. He was warm. He felt real. We didn't say much. I don't even remember what I said to him, honestly. I just remember feeling this overwhelming sense of peace. It was like all the pain, all the grief, it was still there, but somehow, for that moment, it didn't matter. He was here, and that was all I needed. Then Neng looked at me, and his face got serious. He said, "Mom, I'm okay. You don't have to worry about me anymore." I could feel the tears streaming down my face, and I wanted to tell him how much I missed him, how much I loved him, but the words just wouldn't come out. He must have known, though, because he gave me that smile again. The one he always gave me when he knew I was sad and was trying to cheer me up. Then, just as quickly as he came, he was gone. I woke up, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel that crushing weight in my chest. It wasn't gone completely, but it was lighter, like maybe, just maybe, I'd be okay. That dream didn't bring Nung back, and I still miss him every single day. But after that, I felt like he was still with me in some way, like he was watching over me, making sure I was okay. And honestly, I think that's the only thing that's kept me going. Knowing that wherever he is, he's at peace. That's all a mom can really hope for, right? It didn't make everything better, but it helped. I started going back to some of the things I used to enjoy, little by little. It wasn't easy, and I still had moments where the pain would hit me out of nowhere, but I learned to live with it. I learned to carry the grief without letting it crush me. And sometimes, every now and then, I'll feel a drop of water on my arm. It still makes me pause, makes me remember what my mom used to say, but now I don't see it as something to be afraid of. I like to think it's Nung's way of saying he's still around, watching out for me, making sure I'm okay. Maybe it's silly, but it gives me comfort. I don't know what the future holds. Life is unpredictable, and I've learned that the hard way. But if there's one thing I've come to understand, it's that love doesn't end when someone leaves this world. It sticks around, lingers in the air, in the memories, in the dreams, and maybe, just maybe, in the drops of water that fall on your arm when you least expect it. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, check out more of my videos on the screens above or visit my channel for even more. Don't forget to subscribe for future updates. Stay safe and take care.